Olympia. Today we're talking about the June 3rd, 2025 Olympia City Council meeting, and it was pretty robust and varied. A lot of different subjects, and they moved a lot of important things along, especially for me. I thought so. Anyway,
more on that later.
More on that later.
This is Council in 10.
For the record, I'm Kelly Purse-Brassett.
And I'm Susan Grisham. And so roll call, Councilmember Cooper was excused, and the city manager made an announcement that the city's sales tax revenue is under our budgeted projections, and so we're exercising a little bit of caution in implementing a spending freeze that is effective June 1st, and that consists of freeze on spending on discretionary items, with the exception of safety and protective equipment, or funds needed to advance priority work, restricting out-of-state travel unless required by certification, and all hiring decisions have to be approved by the city manager before an offer is made. And City Manager Bernie noted that he'll continue to monitor revenues, and if things improve over the coming months, he'll be able to modify that freeze.
Yes, just to build some capacity for us as we're entering the 2026 part of the budget planning.
Yes.
So, save a little dollar, a little dime here, so we have a little bit more in our pocket when it's time to.
Everything counts.
Everything counts.
And then the agenda was approved, and we moved on to special recognition.
Important one.
Yeah, where council members read a proclamation recognizing June as LGBTQIA2S+ Pride Month, and June 27th through 29th as Capital Pride Weekend in Olympia. Yeah. That's a big party weekend. Yeah. So the proclamation was accepted by Natalie Koblenz and Pog O'Donoghue from Capital City Pride, and they shared all the amazing events that will be happening over Pride Weekend, including a wedding.
Yeah, there will be some wedding, but a lot of activities. They've this year they expanded it to 3 days. I think it was 2 days in the past, and so there'll be a parade as usual, lots and lots of music, and even more fun. Yeah. And, Olympia is very proud to have been the host of the very first Capital City Pride.
That's right.
So, pretty cool. Exciting things at the end of the month. There you go.
Indeed.
Have fun. And then we went right into public comment. We didn't have any in-person commenters, but we had one resident who spoke remotely, and he was focused on the Capitol Mall Triangle Sub-Area Plan, which is which is part of the consent calendar. But he expressed both his support for it and also concerns he had that he wanted to make sure that the council was made aware of. And after that, we went directly into the consent calendar. It was kind of a tricky, windy, timey-wimey kind of thing, as they say on Doctor Who. There were 3 items pulled. 4D was pulled by the city manager. He requested the pull to comment on in more detail about the council's mid-year retreat agenda, which is happening
June 13th.
June 13th, in about a week.
Yep, Friday the 13th.
Right. It'll go really well.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
It'll be gret. It's not Friday the 13th you have to worry about. It's Saturday the 14th.
That's a great movie.
Councilmember Gilman asked to pull items 4E and 4F. We're both around ordinances around the Capital Mall Triangle Sub-Area Plan, which was commented on in the public comment item. He was, and this was the second reading of the ordinances. They'd been discussed before, but he had some concerns about the mall owner's desires were a little too heavily weighed in the final proposal, and he didn't support the second reading. Yeah. So the trick of this kind of vote is that those 2 items were pulled as separate items from the rest of the consent calendar, so that allowed Councilmember Gilman to vote his support on the package of votes from 4A to 4D. And then they did a separate vote on 4E and 4F, and he took his position on it. And we moved on, and thus democracy works. And then we went on to other business. 6A was something I've been longing for a long time. So this is my project. It was the approval of a wayfinding signage design concept. We've been working on this for about a year. We did a RFP process, talked to a whole bunch of firms who do wayfinding, citywide wayfinding. We landed on Tangram Design LLC, who the principal grew up in our area. They have a deep focus on SEPTED, which is part of a running principle through the city's design. So it was really they've been really great to work with. They conducted a lot of public comment. They came to town 3 different times, interviewed people, interviewed the council. Interacted with the tribe, did some interviews with the tribal chair, and then brought their 3 concepts, to the Community Livability and Public Safety Committee on April 16th, and asked in the hopes that they would recommend one to further on to council. What CLIPS did was they asked them to add a 4th concept. They liked concept 1, they liked concept 3. They asked them if they could merge the 2 in some way. And remarkably, they did, and they did a great job. And so council approved the 4th concept, this new concept that is a merger of the 2. To come is they are taking a shot at redesigning some entrance signs. So our entrance signs to our city, our welcome signs, are really dated, kind of hidden in trees, and so they have some great ideas around that. So looking forward to that. So that all of this will end up in a wayfinding master plan that will be the guiding document for our city's wayfinding in the future. So, and then we moved on to 6B. Yes. Which was the Civilian Police Auditor 2024 report. And the staff and folks on tap for this were Stacy Ray, the Assistant City Manager, Shelby Parker, the Deputy Police Chief, and Tara Parker, no relation, our current police auditor. So our police auditor does 2 briefings a year to council on her work auditing OPD's use of force, their complaint investigations, and their responses to public demonstrations to make sure that they stay aligned with best practices in the industry. And so she talked about her work on doing those audits. And Deputy Chief Parker also shared with Council OPD's 2024 end-of-year review of their work, and that included things like data around their staffing levels, the number of calls of service, number of arrests made, the use of force. And one of the takeaways is there was an increase in the use of force, but that increase was nestled in takedowns, which are the lowest form of use of force. So a takedown is basically when they put someone on the ground for some reason. So, so there was a rise in that, but that was a good briefing, and that whole process is going to change a little bit with the new
oversight of law enforcement committee.
The community policing committee.
Yeah.
So new things coming our way around that. So. And then we went on to...
then we moved on to 6C, which was approval of a resolution authorizing the funding recommendations of the Cultural Access Advisory Board for the 2025-26 Inspire Olympia contracts. So Inspire Olympia is the taxing that we do to ourselves, and that the funding from that taxing goes to organizations that support arts in our community and sciences, STEM, in the community. And so every year, the Cultural Access Advisory Board, the CAB, get together to review the submissions from folks who want some of that money to do some great things in our community. So Melissa Mead, the chair of the board, shared an overview of the Cultural Access process. And then Mary Grace Godue, who is the Inspire Olympia program manager, presented the recommendation for the year. So a lot of great work being funded through that that will support the arts and science and all sorts of great events in our community.
Right. They had about 60 applications, and I think they ended up 60 applications that requested like $1.6 million in funding, and they ended up funding 56 of them.
Yeah, there was just a handful that were just not there.
Just 3 or 4 that weren't there. And for just under $1.3 million, which was the cap they used to be fiscally responsible with the funds. And this is the second year they've done this recommendation. And for this year, it was what they called the impact funding, which they will give out every year with a cap of $30,000 for each organization.
Yeah.
And the other interesting part of this Inspire is that there's a certain amount that they have to give to the school district.
To help support field trips and other things related to supporting the arts and STEM in our schools.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then we moved on to 6D, which was the approval of a job description for an assistant to the city council position. So our Human Resources Director, Manny Bosser, presented that draft position description for the assistant to the city council. Council did approve that, and really it's around administrative support for all the work that the council does over the past couple of years. The demands on their time as part-time council members have grown exponentially, and so now they will have a person to help support that work. So they approved that, and in the next couple of weeks, that will be a posting for an assistant to the city assistant to the city council. That would be me. Assistant to the city council position. So if anyone out there is interested, you might want to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, it's a great working for the city is a great gig.
Yeah.
And I understand this was a position that was lost during the Great Recession when there were so many cuts.
Council did have a support position at that time, so now it's being reinstituted.
Yeah, pretty cool. And a great gig. Get to work with us.
That's right. Come on down.
Yeah. Maybe you'll be on Council in 10.
Yeah, there you go. And then council members reported on meetings and events that they attended throughout the past couple of weeks. And then the city manager reported that he had attended the 50th anniversary celebration of the New Baptist Church last week. The oldest and I think largest Black church in Thurston County. So really exciting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So it was people are busy out there. Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Our council members are really busy. So.
And then the meeting adjourned at 8:57 p.m.
And we did it again.
Boom.
Boom. Yep. So, another one done.
Yeah.
And done.
There we go.
So, thank you for joining us. If you're watching us live, you can stay tuned and get the full replay of this meeting we just talked about, this robust and varied meeting where I got my thing across the finish line. Or you can watch it and all of our programming on demand just by going to olytv3.com. And you know what I tell you every time I'm here, download our app, the OlyTV3 app, the OlyTV app, because it's really, really good.
Really good. If you want to watch a council meeting live and in person, we are here most Tuesdays at 6 p.m.
All right. We'll save a seat for you.
And with that, we're adjourned.